Chilly here with Sirius Dallas Moon. This is Soul Hour Jupiter Day. And I want to talk about Deneb Algedy, the sacrifice star. But also the wealth redistribution star, and also the defender of the people that are the underdog in society. Um, and let's talk about Deneb Algedy. Why use the Deneb Algedy oil? And when I think about Deneb Algedy and the connection to the sacrifice star, or it being the sacrifice star, think about the people that to be in society would mean to sacrifice themselves. In a while, the society is sacrificed instead of the individual. um, Ketu to Deneb Algedy is also this juncture where purging the need to defend the underdog by purging society. What do I mean by that? Let's say society sees all unmarried women, basically the women that didn't want to be raped in marriage, as whores. Once in a while, the society is sacrificed. People can call it genocide, democide. Um, and so I don't know to tell you exactly if the society will be sacrificed or if we will have defense of the underdogs in society with Rahu passing through Deneb Algedy. And what is the make or break is, do we simply redefine the underdog? If we think about, let's say, the sex offender being the underdog, that has gone normal. That, like, there's nothing underdog about that anymore. The person that doesn't want to be raped and doesn't want to rape, having no place to live in society, that's an underdog. Now, what's going to happen? Are these people going to suddenly be defended? Or are we going to purge society? I don't know. And the more we approach to these times and I see the rape is not normal theme, the more the topic of the entire society being gone becomes almost imperative to sustain life. Saturn in Aries accentuates that the underdog, we're going to have, let's say, Rao going through Nere Malgari. It's going to be ruled by Saturn. That the underdog is an individual that, and the individual is something to do with the sense of self, with the I am, but also something to do with the I am and one's real estate or business. Um, Particularly the people that didn't want, people that were relying on people not knowing or being stupid about or being naive about or being ignorant about something so that they would be the victims of, then Rahu here changes that. If I think about if I think about my life, where every single thing that I learn or every single thing that I grow, I kind of like share the knowledge, not as a sacrifice, but because the more people know it, the more it's easier for people like me to live. Now, the opposition is people that don't share the knowledge because they sustain life on oppressing other people. And then if Algeri as the sacrifice star is perhaps the understanding that they're gonna know. If somebody was reliant on hiding something from someone, hiding information, hiding opportunities, or hiding business strategies, or hiding occultistic practices because they use these secrets to enslave others, to disempower others, to deprive others of their sense of self. As individuals, then there's a crisis where, particularly with Ketu and Magha, they cannot hide it anymore. It's no longer invisible. They cannot, and now either they're going to sustain their society without relying on other people being oppressed or enslaved. And then a Balgadi here would be the defense of the underdog, that wealth redistributes in a way that there can be sovereignty. Now, the first and foremost thing, particularly with Saturn in Aries, is the original rape. Society cannot sustain on rape. Society cannot sustain on rape and trafficking. Now, I'm half Israeli, half Dutch. United States, Israel, and Netherlands are really known as the top traffickers and child traffickers. If a person cannot have residence without raping or being raped, then they're not growing in any sovereign village, county, country, federation, but also the world is not sovereign. And then we think about Dana Balgady in Aquarius, right? So it's a fixed star in Aquarius. It's the world, it's a global issue. So once in a lifetime, the world is being sacrificed rather than the people that don't want to rape or be raped for a house. Now it's beginning to become warmer here. And what I thought were selves. Yeah, are making. And that's the time where I gotta use my. This one has an orchid flavor. Now, some of these things some of these things meet me at the what was I thinking? And some of these things are like, ooh, that's nice. Rouse still next to Formula Out is a wonderful time to have this psychic awareness because when the clock strikes Dana Balgady, everyone's gonna know. Think about all the initiatives to integrate different types of populations. And how that ended up from Babylonian mathematics that have a couple of rules here, a couple of rules there, and then the overall theories in mathematics are of emergence type to the Babylonian being only honored as basically human trafficking, where the only point of integration is human trafficking. Saturn Neptune can denote at hospitals, but it also can denote at secluded resorts, like the hotels generals go to. Either these entire structures can be sacrificed. Now let's take a look at the passage of. Um, let's see when does Rahu ingress to annual. again, this is also a reminder that when we build big things, because then Balgari is also about big structures or global structures, those things really need to consider the sovereign. And a lot of the crisis that we're going to see is simply being informed that, hey, there's a sovereign people. You know, think about colonialism and expedition, where people see the natives as, um, I don't know, primordial, where in fact they could be more advanced technologically even, but also more advanced in other ways, or simply having a different type of advances pertaining to their own structures. August 18, Rao ingresses into Aquarius. And as we begin to move through the months, we're going to be meeting Rao towards the end of the year. Where am I? Here it is. Towards the end of the year, towards December 2026, we're going to have Rao with Dana Balgari. We're going to have Jupiter with Ketu. And so what we haven't done here, and here is the interesting thing about this, because Jupiter right now, yes, it's closer to Ketu than to Rahu, but it's ruling Rahu. And as the nodes leave Pisces, Jupiter applies to conjunct Ketu. And so many of the new things that are materialized right now, particularly around leadership, new beliefs around leadership, we are going to be purging or dematerializing, and we're going to be purging even religious gurus, philosophical leaders. Um, I was talking about the need to sort the wheat from the chaff when it comes to the fall off of the Epstein list. So Jupiter Ketu, we are going to, the way we see visibility, the way we see Magha Nakshatra, we are going to transmute that or to gain more wisdom around these exact topics. While Rahu and Balgari will have also Lilith in the sign of Saturn, Pluto going all the way back to 3-degree Taurus. um, and Chiron will already be retrograde on 26-degree. In Aries. Saturn will still be in the first decan of Aries. And here's the thing. The people that have made things, the people that relied on other people being enslaved to them for their sovereignty, that now is the time to go short on that. Now is the time to begin to address business models that allow that are sovereign for everyone. The people that relied on rape for income, now is the time to go short on that. And here, when there are a lot of people that say, oh my God, I didn't see that they understand in that, I didn't see that they know that, I didn't see that. Why did you rely on them not knowing that? Why was your business model or sustainability model reliant on people not knowing certain things? If you rely on other people being stupid in a way that they are not being stupid, doesn't up level your business strategy and model, but downgrade who is the stupid. If you have to keep people stupid to sustain, like it's one thing to say, oh, people are stupid, I have to deal with the world where people are stupid. It's another thing to be so dependent on being able to sustain when people are stupid that one doesn't have any venue for people not being stupid. When a person is completely exiled of their community, and this is Dana Balgadi, for saying no to rape, that they had to escape from a rapist society, and then, for example, they they have to, I don't know, find some place to express themselves or whatnot. And they're being hunted even when they were exiled, and then they're being persecuted, and they were exiled for saying no to rape. What will eventually happen to all societies? And what a grand relief it is when they all gone. Well, if a person cannot wish for the relief of people suddenly acknowledging, seeing them, and honoring them, then the only relief left to wish for is for them all to be gone. I think this is the conundrum of Aquarius at the peak. It's the humanitarian or humanity thinking while being in a position where sometimes it feels like we can't hope for us to be seen and honored and respected. And so the only hope is for that the entire humanity that we dedicate all of our endeavors to is gone. I'm having a solar year with ascendant Aquarius, as is possible to see. Now, the conundrum between Magha Nakshatra and Dena Balgiri, or between Regulus and Dena Balgiri, the two royal stars, is that in Magha, the leader is alone. And when I mean alone, I don't necessarily mean married or not married. It's some sort of situation where that leader is alone. It can be because of security reasons. It can be, um, but it's something is very internal. Whereas in Deneb Algiri, it's actually the underdog that is alone. One is very visible, and the other one is very, I think both are very projected on. And I think both can experience feeling sacrificed for the collective. Um, more things that I can think about with this. Jupiter is also associated with Anabalgidi, basically of nature of Saturn and Jupiter. If Jupiter is abundance, Saturn is structure. And in Anabalgidi, we have wealth redistribution or redistribution of opportunities. And then Jupiter is with Ketu. So one could consider when Rahu is on Anabalgidi, one could consider that a part of the ruler of Rahu is with Ketu. And so it can be that some people that were the underdogs, or particularly underdog leaders, um, might either no longer be underdog and but it also tells me that the more Saturnian qualities of Denebalgidi are going to materialize, while the Jupiterian qualities are materializing in the sense of wisdom. So Jupiter Ketu in Leo is not the opportunity, let's say, to be at the White House, or it is more the wisdom gained from the loss of, let's say, a presidential delegate in the elections. Um, while Saturn in Aries is both the limitations on the individual, um, and Saturn distributing here as purging people that had, let's say, an abundance of something to do with Maga. And something to do with Maga can be good or bad. It's kind of like, think about if a person is a president of the United States and they are enclosed in the White House, and to the point where they might even consider if they want to run again. However, um, Turnian, it can be distributing the limitations on sovereignty, um, or by materializing more limitations. And then is the question: where do we put the boundary so that something can sustain or that something can grow? For example, Mars at around that time is going to go through the signs closer to Ketu. So we have another type of interesting, because it's like we are materializing some sort of restriction or limitation on, and the ruler of the ruler is materializing to eliminate. It's like putting a lot of people into debt so that we can dematerialize, imprisoning people for debt. For example, the subprime crisis was doing that. It's kind of like now not only billionaires could get away with debt, but anybody that actually tried to sustain and remain alive um, would have debt relief because they were not really able to rehabilitate themselves financially, right? They didn't cooperate with the Epsteins, and so it wasn't actually a debt relief, but the understanding that the core of the debt was with the Epsteins, and so that debt originally was not theirs. By the way, if you thought how could billionaires get away with so much debt if they are raped, that debt originally, truly, and authentically is not theirs. So we're gonna see probably more people experiencing certain restrictions for reasons that they did not have actual access to act otherwise. And then those actions and then we're going to have those actions being purged together with the debt or together with the restrictions. What is, for example, people that went through rape, they can have self-harm patterns even in self-pleasure, and then restricting their, let's say, even ability to self-pleasure for a while can build a sense of self and self-trust where sensuality will only be reintegrated in a way that honors the self. And meanwhile, tend to all the inflammation issues and even mold issues in their body. And then the restriction can be removed because they learn to integrate their sense of self into their body. What is purged along with the years? The job people becoming accountable, the Epstein list, media conglomerates, burning offices of OpenAI, social media being accountable for the trafficking that takes place in it. Militaries no longer being seen in a positive image when there is trafficking and rape within their linings. Targeting individuals held accountable. Removal of the pensions and investments within these companies. A projector on the banks and investment companies that try to detour people's mindset of believing that there is such thing as sheeple, or that people are slaves to them, or that they can trade people, are being exposed. The prevalent silencing of the people that said no to rape becomes so prevalently evident. Everybody already having had enough of these weird hand gestured people on their feed, asking when will there be a revolution of these weird hand gestured people against the very practices that rape them. And Uranus, by the way, will be retrograding to the Gemini, applying to Sedna.